Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or your digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organization. Each and every episode, we sit down with leaders from various fields, just like you're grabbing a cup of coffee with them. We dive into real, practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, how can you transform your speaking career and become the kind of speaker that event planners rebook time and time again? Well, welcome to Speak with People podcast. I'm so excited that you're joining us today. This is the place where leaders, speakers, entrepreneurs, communicators can gather so we can learn how to elevate our influence, expand our impact. I'm so excited for today's topic. As you know, our listening community, I absolutely just geek out talking about speaking in the speaker industry. We have an industry expert today, a brand new author of a book I've been through. Is very highlighted, it is very marked up. Cannot wait to talk to her. So if you've ever wondered why some speakers seem to always land the best gigs and some that don't, you're not alone. There's a reason why some are more bookable than others. So today we're going to dive into all of those things. I'm thrilled to have Christa Haberstock with me. She's the CEO of Bookable Speakers. She is also the author of Become a Bookable Speaker. Christa, I am so excited for this. I am so honored that you're joining us. Thank you and welcome to the Speak with People podcast.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you for asking me, my new friend, Jason.
Absolutely.
This is cool. Thank you for that nice introduction.
Absolutely. Well, it is fantastic. And I, look forward to these kind of conversations. Love every one of our guests, but especially when it is something, in that sweet passion area. It's just absolutely great. Well, for our audience, could you dive into a little bit more of your story, who you are, what you do, what's got you to this place?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So I was born a long time ago. You got to say that at least once, right? On an
Right.
interview. I just got it out of the way on yours. The 199th interview. Can I spoil it by
Yeah,
saying that?
there it is.
That's very cool. I feel honored that we're right on the precipice of a whole new what is it? A century?
Yeah.
100 episodes? A century of episodes? Is that what you
Yep.
say? But Christa Haberstock, I was born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and was not trained whatsoever for this industry, which most of the people in our industry, I would say, like myself, fell backwards into it. There's no like course or like trajectory to be a speaker agent or manager. Like, who even knows that this exists? It's so niche. It's a niche of a niche. And actually being a manager is a niche of a niche of a niche. So, it wasn't too hard to capture my audience for the book. I have to tell you that. There's a tremendous hunger around this because there's not too much out there. There's some really great resources. And I was delighted to be able to add my book to that list. But I moved to the States in 1997 from Canada, and again, just fell backwards into the industry, had an opportunity to work for a speakers bureau and didn't know what it was when I started. So my brother is a professional speaker, Hall of Fame speaker in 2 countries. Vince Pacenti. He's an excellent speaker. Anyone from Canada is like, oh my gosh, Vince is your brother. So if you don't know, now you know. And he was in the Olympics, 1992 Winter Olympics, and he developed a story around not winning at the Olympics. So when he moved to the States to start this, venture into speaking, his plan was to go in the Olympics, win the Olympics, phone would ring off the hook for, for a speak. Well, he didn't win. So there was zero market for a Canadian Olympian that lost. So I got to see very firsthand what it takes to be a bookable speaker and what it takes to make not something out of nothing, but to really embrace what I like to call your obvious advantage. And that was for him, his Olympic story and what it took to go from recreational skier to Olympic athlete in 4.5 years, which is an incredible feat. But this guy, man, Vince had to dig way below the surface to find what the story was behind losing at the Olympics. Where is the story there? And it was the mental training techniques that he used to get to the Olympics.
Wow.
So, and I can't help but promote my brother. I mean, he is one of the best speakers I've ever seen on stage, and love him to death, of course. And he's the reason I'm in this industry. So, I start my book with the whole story, and he actually writes the foreword to the book, which is very cool for me. So that's how I got into it. So I worked for his wife's speakers bureau. So my sister-in-law, she had a speakers bureau. I started there, and for those who don't know, a speakers bureau is, for all intents and purposes, a broker, right? Kind of like a real estate agent kind of a thing. It's like someone comes, they're looking for a house, the real estate agent says, here's your list of houses. So very much like that. That's what speakers bureaus are. Well, Christa did not know what that was. I didn't know. And I started like, cause she was able to, it was an immigration thing. I was an elementary music teacher in Canada, and I could not get to the States on a teaching
Mm,
degree, and it was rough. Like, I was moving to the States for a variety of reasons. Part of the reason to be closer to family, like my brother and sister-in-law, but also could not get here. So she called me up and said, I just fired somebody. I think I can get you here on a visa. I'm like, all right. So I came as a management consultant to her bureau, and with an education degree in like in music performance, I was, highly qualified for it. So crossed the border like that. But I didn't know anything about speakers, Jason. So I spent the first half of of my first day in the file room. The old files, like you pull them out, and there's like
yep.
the file, and you lay it on top, and there's like contracts, and you go through, and I looked at contracts and testimonial letters and just figured it out. And she said, let's go for lunch, let's see how you did. And she's like, well, what do we do? And I said, I think event planners are looking for speakers and for their event, and then you sell them a speaker for their event. She's like, good enough, let's go.
Boom.
So I mean, you cannot get more ground up than like ground up, like ground beef, but like bottom of the rung of the ladder. As an immigrant, um, no sales experience. I know. So everything I've learned in this business, it was taught, it was poured into me. I bootstrapped it. I learned it on my own, and there's a lot of good to be taken from that too, because I had to figure out how to sell a speaker in my own way, and
Yeah.
that was to figure out what event planners were wanting and reverse engineer a speaker into that. So I basically branded my way into a top producer position,
Mm.
because I would rebrand speakers day in, day out, put them all in a proposal and say, look how perfectly they match your event. Which one would you like? And I did that for 10 years. I was exhausted. So then I
Wow.
went on to, yeah. And then I went on to speaker management. I worked for the great Karen Harris
Oh,
with
wow.
CMI Speaker Management in Calgary, Alberta. And I saw the value of speaker management, but I wanted my own spin on it. And I joke that I'm highly unemployable. Like, really, I think I'm highly entrepreneurial, which makes me virtually unemployable. So, very grateful to her to learn the foundations of it, and then took my own spin on it with C Agency, and it's very consultative. How do you Americans say it? Consultative? Which one do you say? You're from
Consultative.
Michigan. Consultative?
Yep.
All right. Well, whichever it is. I can't wait to see like the closed caption on this. It's going to
Yeah,
just say
right.
consultable. Yeah, and so it's very brand heavy, very just, and I love it. Like I scroll social media and watch commercials differently than I think a lot of people do, because I am
Mm.
like, what's a trend? What's going on? How did they do that? How did I respond? What was the, it just comes very naturally. I really don't know where that came from, but I think marketing and branding is highly creative, and I'm just a creative. I'm a musician. And anyway, so there's my full story. So that's
I
probably
love
on
it.
time. That was a lot. I
No,
bet
it's
we're done
great.
now.
Well, and
Sorry.
I appreciate how you post on LinkedIn. I use the
Oh,
word
thank you.
ferocious just because I'm like, wow, you really go at it and you present uh, these really great principles through the lens of a story that I'm like, whew,
Oh,
every single one. I'm like, all right. That gave me a great, and
Oh,
I think it
good.
is your music background. I was a
I think so.
music ed major as well, and
What?
I think you succeeded so well because you could be in a room with 20 children all playing, an
A
off-key instrument at
xylophone
once.
or yeah, or like, playing hot cross buns on a recorder.
Yes.
We did
Oh,
ukuleles too. We did
oh yeah,
ukuleles. Yep, they were
yeah,
weapons for the fifth and sixth graders.
yeah.
Hmm.
That was something. All of those. Um, yeah. Well, goodness, I love that. Yeah, growing up in Detroit, obviously we call ourselves Hockey Town. We had the Detroit Red Wings, so
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
learned, you Canadians say
Hmm.
organization,
Organization.
organization. Yes, taking a shot from the blue line. A couple of those phrases. So
You just said that, and it's like, yeah,
yeah,
like
that's
don't
exactly what it is. Yeah.
do not distract me with hockey, Jason, because
Okay.
I will eat up the rest of the time.
Perfect.
Let's just
Perfect.
change topics as quickly as possible.
Well, let's go right in because there are so many mistakes or misbeliefs that speakers have. I hear so many of them, that people call me and say, put my website up. I'm just
Mm.
waiting for the phone to ring, and I'm like,
No, does this
oh,
really happen?
oh, for sure,
Oh,
for sure. And I know it really happens because as long as I've been paid to speak, I still am like, why is the phone not ringing? Oh, wait a minute, because I've got to be more. So, what are some of those biggest mistakes that speakers, that keep
yeah.
them from getting booked consistently?
Well, we live in a different world than when I started, by far. Some of the principles will never change. Like grit and hustle always pays off.
Mm,
Um, I have not seen a speaker that sticks with it and digs in fail. I may be missing some examples or just forgetting or I don't know. But I'm going to tell you for the most part, the ones that I notice are the ones that I go, this guy's never going anywhere.
mm,
This woman, she's fooling herself. Like this is not a sustainable talk. They keep going and
mm,
they eventually succeed. So that's my encouragement to all speakers. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't pay attention to the basics because that's going to shorten your runway. It's going to cut years off. Like now, they have to stick with it for years. So really, my job as a manager, a consultative partner, whatever it is, it is to shorten the runway for a speaker.
mm.
I've said it. I said it to a speaker last week that I'm interviewing for the roster, and I said I have no doubt that you can do this by yourself. I know that you can because I've watched you, but I've also seen some missteps, and those cost you in ways that you don't realize. So it's for me from the start, Jason. When I started C Agency, it was to help speakers remove barriers to bookings. It
Mm,
wasn't to generate more bookings. It wasn't to help speakers be more anything. It was to help remove barriers to bookings. Sorry about that. Um, Very busy and important around here. You see, my phone's always ringing. So the speakers that I've seen do best know when they can recognize a barrier. And
mm,
those barriers can be anything from a big one, a big one for me is your fee is mismatched from your brand.
ooh,
Speakers will often say, okay, so my story is this, and I want to go back, remind me, okay, write this down for me because I want to go back to the point system. This is something that I have to tread lightly on this because if I'm going to get canceled, it's over this point system. So get ready for that. Episode 199 might be your last, Jason. Um, but so someone's fee, they're basing it on, let's just, I have Olympics top of mind. Okay, I went to the Olympics. So my fee should be $15,000. Well, your video makes you look like a $5,000 speaker. Your website makes you look like a $7,500 speaker. You have 9 topics listed on your website and they're all over the place,
mm,
like it looks like you have no speaking experience. So for a planner with $15,000, they're looking for a speaker that's going to be really good on stage, that they're not going to have to lose their job over. Because I always say that no planner ever lost their job over dessert,
Mm.
but they have lost their job over a speaker that failed. So they really, really have to make sure that this is right, that the content is there, that it's appropriate for their audience. So to have your fee be congruent with your brand is critically important. Let me go to the point system for you. The point system is your experience is critical to your overall brand. Um, the things that are in your bio for experience or in your background for experience, they're going to get you points. Now, let's just say you are an Olympian, but you lost. Okay. You don't get as many points as an Olympian that won. That's obvious, right? Let's say this is where we're going to get canceled. Okay. Let's say you are a female Olympian in higher demand in the speaking industry that won, or maybe it was the Paralympics, because we're looking at a female with a disability. Those are underrepresented in the speaking industry. Though not one is not more important than the other, but the points you're going to get as far as brand and marketing kind of go up because the demand is higher because there aren't as many I wouldn't say, female Olympians with a physical disability, right? Like one of my speakers, Bean Gill, she is, when I first met her, and I knew we were going to be best friends forever when she said this. She was, when she was on her 30th birthday, she was on a girls' trip and having a great time. And little did she know she had caught a virus that paralyzed her from the waist down within 10 minutes.
Oh,
And
oh,
yeah, what she's had to overcome since then has been incredible. Well, she is in a wheelchair. She's since opened a paralysis recovery center in Edmonton, my hometown, which is kind of how we know each other. Um, and so she is like a neuro recovery expert, a woman with a physical disability, and she's Indian. So she said, I'm the trifecta of discrimination. I basically book myself.
yep.
And that's what got me thinking about the point system. I was like, you get a lot of points for those three things, don't you? Just like, I do. So, and I know that's an elephant in the room for a lot of people. It's kind of like, well, like I'm not a woman speaker, so a lot of I get the calls from the what did we call it? The middle-aged white male crowd. You're one of them,
Yep.
right? And that has never really been an advantage as far as points in the speaking industry, all because there just seems to be an overabundance of the middle-aged white male speaker. The females, it's like, half my roster is females. I can't help myself. I'm a strong female, so I've got some really incredible female speakers. So as you're looking at your brand, so that potentially inflammatory story, which people are going to take exception to, if we're going to be friends, Jason, you've got to understand I am real. Like
I
I
love
am
it.
going to give you the truth. I'm not going to gloss over it. I'm not saying anything out of anything except the reality of what it is. Um, so, speakers, as you're looking at your brand, lean into your obvious advantage. And it could be something that looks like a disadvantage, like Bean Gill, for example. She calls herself the trifecta of discrimination. Well, it's time for that to be turned into an advantage. So that's where your advantage is. I challenge speakers on the obvious advantage and I'm holding my hands like this because I feel so strongly about this. Like I really get passionate about
Mm.
this. Um, Speakers lean into not your speaking experience. When I ask speakers, like, what's your obvious advantage? Well, I've spoken for 17,000 people at an Amway. No, 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 no. No, what earned you that microphone? Oh, well, it was a referral. No, what gives you the right to be holding that microphone in the first place? What do you have that justifies you holding that microphone and standing in front of 10 people,
Mm.
100, 1,000, 10,000 people? And saying those things? What's your advantage? What is the one thing that sets you apart?
Wow.
Everybody's got it, and it sometimes it's not so obvious. I'm working with a couple of female leadership speakers, and their obvious advantage is obvious. Like leadership as far as like they led major organizations, and I mean major, like household marquee brands. That's an
Oh, wow.
easier sell. That's an easier
Yeah.
sell for Chris, right? It's not, you don't have to dig so far. But there are other speakers that don't have that much as. Now, do you lean on that? No, it opens the door for you. It opens the door, and then all of a sudden you're in, and then you get to deliver all the things that you learned because of what you did.
Wow. Wow.
I hope that's helpful.
I,
Gosh, I'm just rambling and rambling.
no, that's amazing. I'm taking notes like crazy. I think
Oh,
that's insanely helpful to be able to do that. What are some? Okay, so you talked about the obvious advantage. So a speaker kind of gets that in place. How important is it? Because I run into this all the time, especially
okay.
interviewing people, and then especially as I talk with other speakers. Um, they have such a struggle sometimes, and we've all been there, but such a struggle to say that obvious advantage
Yeah,
in a clear, concise, impactful way that draws you in,
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Why do you, how do you coach? Do you look for that in speakers as you're talking to
Yeah,
them, if they're able to communicate that strongly?
I can't help it. Like either I was born with it, or it was just. I mean, it's just so second nature to me. I'll be talking to anybody, and I'll be processing this. Yes. So one of my recent most favorite quotes is, "You cannot read the label from inside the jar." And all these speakers, man, they're all just rattling around inside this jar, and we're like, the buyer is on the outside. Like, I'm buying and selling speakers, right? Well, I'm not buying them, but I'm selling them.
Yep.
I used to be, as a bureau agent, I was buying them. um and we're like, would you like our opinion? Would you like to know what the label says? No. So you really need to get on the outside of the jar somehow. I don't think it's other speakers, and that is potentially inflammatory. What? How can you say that? My colleagues have helped me with this. I get it. I get it. But they're also inside the jar with you.
Mm,
So they can be helpful. Okay. Maybe they have a telescope that they can put over and they'll read it upside down and say, oh, I think it says this. You really need someone on the outside saying, no, like, here are what the ingredients are, and here's the most interesting thing. Um, so I mean, not to be too self-serving, but that's part of the reason I wrote the book. That's part of the reason I
yeah.
consult speakers as I do. That's why I speak to speakers about speaking, so that I can just contribute to the industry that's given me so much and help speakers read the label. And when I say it's the obvious advantage, know that it's obvious to everybody about the speaker. And I'm going to use myself. It was not obvious to me. Like, I mean, I had an epiphany earlier this year, Jason. Like, I, it's so obvious. We were talking about LinkedIn before. Um, I'm a good writer. Okay, I'm a great writer. Like, I love writing, and I've
Hmm.
developed it. And I mean, I always soared through these classes, middle school, high school, college. It was just like second nature for me. And I would just post on LinkedIn all the time, all the time. And I would write, 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 write. And then, but it's like, oh, should I write a book about this? I mean, 27 years of
Yep.
me, all of this, and I didn't once think, well, and I thought, maybe it'll become a book. Like, I shouldn't say I didn't once think. That's not entirely true. I never leaned into it as one of my obvious advantages, though, I can tell you that. And then I went, oh, I'm like a born performer, basically, like, music, and I did improv and stand up for a while,
Yep.
and live to tell. And well, shouldn't I be speaking about this too? And that was the scary one, because I was like, I'm not one of those people. Well, turns out I am. Okay. So I'm leaning into speaking, I'm leaning into writing, I'm leaning into giving back to my industry in a gag thought leadership way. I don't like that phrase. However, it serves a purpose, and I
Yep.
I love it. And that's my obvious advantage, is being able to do that and usually the obvious advantage is the thing that just comes naturally, right? It's second nature. And That would be an obvious advantage skill. Obvious advantage, as far as what sets me apart, and I'm talking about me just because it applies to speakers too. I'm very careful to not just be, well, and I did this and I did that. But my 27 years of working with, like, we all know speakers, okay? The most incredible people with the most incredible stories, and just as a matter of course, just this is what I do day in and day out. Oh, who has this? And it's, again, it's like a niche of a niche of a niche, what I do. It's such a weird job, but
Yep.
I've been able to work with, like, name recognition, like legends. Like, I worked with Walter Cronkite twice.
Hmm.
There's people I can't name anymore because they're felons. What else? Uh, it's
Just slip that in.
I know. It's really sad. I was like, well, I got to delete that out of my bio. That sucks. Dang it.
Why'd they do
I
that?
know. I didn't, that was unfortunate. But to have to have that as my work history, like, it's so crazy. And so what I was able to draw out of these people, not Walter Cronkite, because obviously you say his name and you want to book him, or did, but people is, so it's, it's like draw out of really incredible, like, humanitarians and authors and thought leaders and innovators and survivors and people who are overcomers, to draw out their obvious advantage out of them. And my experience doing that is those stories are my stories to share, and
Mm,
I'm so blessed with that. And
yeah,
so it was right in front of my face. So that's my obvious advantage experience, and my obvious advantage skill is being able to share it and write about it.
I love that. Do
Mm.
rookie speakers? I can't remember where I read this, but someone said, people start speaking and they're like, "Oh, I immediately need to find someone like you, Krista,
Oh,
to book me."
yeah.
And it's like, do you? Because I think you need to get some reps. You need to build a business.
Mhm.
And so, what do you? I mean, what do you think about that?
So I'll just give you the example. I mean, I learned it early, in a different environment. So when I was writing and recording music and performing and doing all that in, pre-kids, there wasn't a huge market, by the way, for a pregnant 32-year-old musician lead singer. So I gave that up. But I was going to singer-songwriter workshops and, what you would call speaker boot camps, right? But it was for musicians, and we had the whole, like, competition with performing and all that. And there were a few people that I just see myself in so much now. It's so cool. And I'm still in touch with one of them, actually, quite closely. And one of the things that I learned from going through those is, because we're all sitting out there, right? We're like, oh, just discover me. I'm the Cinderella story you've been waiting for. Wanting them to just hear our music and a light bulb will go on and say, "Lo, let me give you a development deal. Let me give you a record contract." It just doesn't happen that way. And so the line that I heard in one of these sessions was, we come alongside already busy artists.
Mm,
And, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone in the room's like, well, why am I here?
yep.
And they say, get out there, just perform, do your local church, do just anything, like gig, 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 some more. And that groundswell and fan base will give you the momentum you need to get our attention. And that's what it was, and that's what it is in this industry. There are the Cinderella stories. There just are. Like, you land a plane on the Hudson, you get a speaking career. You just do. You win American
100%.
Idol 100% of the time. You win American Idol, you get a speaking career 100, or a singing career 100% of the time. You
Yep.
get a record deal, right? So there are those lightning bolt moments. Um, Now, it is tough, and I'm very happy to say on episode 199 of your podcast that I finally have something to tell emerging speakers as to what you can do from one of these phone calls that I had recently with someone who has been emerging for the last few years. He gave me a secret that I can't believe. Again, it was so obvious. Don't ignore the obvious, Krista, but there it was, about how to get the reps in order to get the attention of a speakers bureau or a manager, because there are no shortcuts. And I'm going to share this with you, but to look at the industry you want to get in. So I think you were saying something about you are busy in the financial industry, right? Is that what
Mhm.
you were saying? Okay.
Yep.
So, and it all comes kind of just from a spark. Like you get one event or something, and like over 80% of all your inbound leads will be referral, just statistically. So, when I talk to
Wow.
speaker, every time they talk to me, they're like, well, most of my bookings come from referral, as if that's a badge of honor. I'm like, no, that's just math.
Yeah,
That's
no
what
doubt.
happens. If you don't suck on stage, generally that's what happens. Like, you better be, because that's your number one lead generation, isn't it?
Hmm.
So you need to be on stage. So speak more to speak more. Well, how do you do that if you don't have speaking gigs? So here's a way. Just learned this last week, and I'm so excited for emerging speakers. Find a niche that you'd like to be in, and find their big conferences and do an RFP for a breakout, any breakout that you can fit. Do it for free and crush it. Have a very compelling title for your breakout. Make sure that your stuff is ready. Now, I mean, do not do this before your stuff is ready. That's the obvious. Okay, like your
Ooh.
website, your video, everything has to be ready, because if someone sees you on stage and they want to refer you to someone and they send your video or website and they're like, this guy, like this girl, like, no, like, look, what do you see in them? Well, I saw them great, live, they were great. Well, that doesn't matter. I can't pass that on to my CEO. You're on stage gets the lead. The lead is, I say, it's a job interview that you can't attend. Your
Mm.
materials do the interview for you. So
Wow.
that lead is there, and you'll lose that. You'll lose that business if your materials unsell you. So you got to make sure, for sure, that you've eliminated all those barriers to the booking. But I digress. There it is. So you apply for the RFP, free event, do that breakout, whatever it is, and the leads come from there inside the organization, and then you get to speak for the organization and the other. Even better if it's an organization of other, like usually like associations, right? Like start at a state association, do an RFP for a breakout at a state association. That state association will have members that have you. Those members will tell another state and another state and another state, and then build up to national. And then the state and the national have corporations. That's how I built my business at the Speakers Bureau, was associations led to corporations. And that, I mean, to me, that is the clearest, most salient way to start a speaking business.
Mm.
Now, like I cannot overstate how important it is to make sure your materials are unlocked before you do that, and your speech, or else you're just wasting your time.
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and
It's
that's, so it
just
should go
huge.
without saying, but it should be said.
Oh my goodness, so much gold right there, especially going back to the music. We had sounds like we had a very similar path.
I think so.
I wanted to be I played guitar and was a trumpet major and was in a band, and I wanted to be the
Oh,
next
cool.
Hootie. That's who I wanted. Like Hootie is my great love. If I could just spend a day with Darius Rucker, life would be the best.
Ah, nice.
But I got to a place, I was 25 and I was speaking a lot to students, and then I was playing music, and a mentor sat me down and said, hey, this is great. You can do both, but you can't do everything great, and you got to pick one. And that trajectory, I think, the experience of being on stage and all that really helped in both, areas, but then
I
making
agree.
that decision to go with speaking. And people come to me all the time and they're like, because what we'll do for my engagements is, every engagement we go, I'll do an image, so like this Thursday I'll do a speak with your client. That's kind of my signature talk, to a group of advisors for Fifth Third Bank. um, and people will see that and they're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's just a real simple way of saying to the world, like, hey, I'm, going out to speak again. But I had someone call me and they're like, how do you get those? What are you doing? And I said, well, and you hit on it, just say yes. Like so often we just say no. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to speak at the old folks home. I don't want to speak at my kid's classroom. I don't want to speak at Rotary. Why?
Then
Every
why are you
single,
here? Why are you
right,
here? If you're a
right.
speaker, you're a speaker. And
Right.
don't tell me you're a speaker if you're going to say no to those things, unless it is outside of your strategy to build your business.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you see me lean in?
I know you
Just
were,
like
that
shake my
got you.
finger.
Yeah, that got you. I love it. But like for instance, this is a repeat for me. So I did an event for a senior VP for Fifth Third, and then she had me at a couple different locations, and now she actually got someone from corporate to come and be a part of it. So now like Thursday is now like, oh, okay, because just like you said, that leads to her thinking. She was like, oh man, it'd be great if you could do a regional event or you could do a national, but
Awesome.
to get people on those, radars is
Perfect.
just
You're a
absolutely
case
huge.
study. This is exactly right. This is like theory and application right here, back to back. I love it. That's great. And I mean, again, like I have not personally launched a successful speaking career, and hope I don't have to, because it's not easy. But yeah, like that's so cool to hear that. I'm sorry to it's just, yeah, like that is the theory that I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure this would work. And to hear that's exactly what you've done is very encouraging for me, that
Yeah.
proves out.
And I've actually taken some of the concepts already from your book. I coach a couple of speakers who, one of them
Nice.
owns a PR firm, and she's like, for years, I've been helping, get people on stages, kind of national stages for PR kind of thing. She's like, I think it's my turn. And so I
Cool.
went right to, and the other thing that's been helpful reading your book was we're at a
Mhm.
place now where I've got a couple of people where I'm, they're not helping prospect. So, financial industry, insurance industry, hospitality. Those are sort of my three because I'm like communication skills. Okay, well we need those,
Yep.
and so
You could put
that's.
3 kids through college on those 3 industries.
I have 5 kids, so that would be wonderful.
Oh, well, you need 2 more industries.
Okay. Maybe if I can get into the music industry and speak for Hootie and the Blowfish,
Right.
then my
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
my life is better. Can you is there give some advice to maybe someone who's been at it for a few years, they're trying to increase their fee, they've invested in all those assets that you talked about, their website's kicking butt, everything is going that well, but they're just, it's that normal, you know
Oh,
couldn't
yeah,
the
it's living
phone
in a
ring more?
silo.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting to be doing this podcast like, right at the kind of Q1 2025, because boy, aren't we all just full of just let's go gung ho. I mean, I am pouring into, I'll just speak from what I see and what I have always seen. I have a heart for the legacy speaker. The legacy speaker being circled right back to the beginning. My brother, who had launched his 1992 Winter Olympics, he launched his speaking career in 1994, 1995. He has been speaking. What is this? His 40th year? Good grief! Unbelievable. He's a legacy speaker. The 2, 3, 4 decade speakers is where I just feel like emotionally passionate to see them succeed,
Mm,
because they are the best ones on stage. They've done tens of thousands of reps probably at this point,
yes.
like, or just they've spoken to, how many people would you even speak to in 40 years? Like, it's a ton. So they've got to be the best speakers, at least some of the best speakers. And I think that our industry is leaning very hard into experience and trust, because there's all sorts to distrust, with deep fakes and with AI, and to, um, oh, dare I say the media?
Mm.
But oh, I just did. So just another reason to cancel me in 2025. Let's go. um, so the legacy speaker, and I go on about this a little bit, is because it led me to really start evaluating what gets in the way of established speakers bookings. And I think it's a little bit of reading the label from inside the jar. I think it's that. And I think you have to combat that with a community of people that is not just other speakers, but also event industry professionals. Um, that can be hard to do because our job is not to talk to other speakers and mentor them. Our job is to sell the speakers that we either represent or sell this, to the clients. As far as bureaus go, sell to the clients that have, so that's our job. We, as far as I can tell, everybody I know is passionate about elevating the industry. um I, I have been just, and I mean, I'm kind of leaning into it again, like gung ho, let's go 2025. I'm leaning back into my Bookable Speakers events. And it is for the established speaker because they need to create a community. Oh, my dog just came in and he's coughing everywhere. They need to lean into, don't you just love working at home? Like, I mean,
Yes.
it's dogs coming in, but whatever. That's where we all are. Like, if you're watching this and you're a speaker, you're like, yeah, I get it. But okay, for the established speaker, you have experienced some success, and what has worked in the past may not work in the current modern market. And it is almost like you're constantly developing your brand as you go. I don't think you can get, I wouldn't want to say lazy, but that's the word that comes to mind on your brand. You really have to be always evolving. Now, keep your obvious advantage front and center. If you're that one thing, stay that one thing, but the
Mm,
way you present it is going to be different. So,
yep.
um, uh, 10 years ago, work life balance is now wellness, right? Mental health, wellness. That's what we're calling it. So you have to reconfigure your brand to make sure that it appeals to the modern market. Now, if your phone's not ringing, you're an established speaker and you've had some reps under your belt, check your, um, what is a speaker called last week? Side of stage bookings, stage side bookings, something like that.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
the leads from your events.
Yes.
If you're not getting the leads from events that are really propelling your business forward, because again, 81% of all leads come from having, come from referral, right? Someone seeing you, speakers saying they saw you. If you don't have those, check your presentation, check your on stage behavior, or not on stage but off stage behavior. Check your setup, your on stage, your follow up. Check all that, because you really need to be getting leads from your speaking. That's going to be your number one revenue stream always. And mine your old network too. Like, look back and be like, gosh, like it's been 2 years since I spoke for you guys. I just really loved it. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Yes.
Here's a picture I ran across. Don't be like, if you ever need me again, come on, like, do
Yeah.
better than that. Like, that it's implied, um, and just, yeah. Um, those are just some random things off the top of your head, off the top of your head, my head. The Bookable Speaker events, I'm doing this so that we can have a connected community and advanced education for established
Mm,
speakers. So that's a plug. Yeah, I'm
I love it.
rebooting the Bookable Speakers thing. So if you've been speaking for 10 years or more, um, it is by invitation only. And we've got it's a 3-to-1 ratio for speakers to event industry experts. So that the speakers, bureaus, managers, I'm going to get my video guy to come and talk about video best practices, that kind of stuff. But it's for the established speakers. So the emerging speakers need not apply. That's not my sweet spot. Sorry.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, you have given us, I mean, just absolute gold. And your book is just, I mean, it's a must read for speakers. Before I let you go, let me ask you a couple rapid fire questions because we're building
Okay.
this online communication skills database. And so we want to, leaders to be able to go there and get inspired by some stuff. But this is going to be probably too difficult for you. I'm just laying it out there that way because you're in a different role. But I ask every guest the
Okay.
same question. Is there a speaker that
Oh,
you
gosh.
you just
You want me
I
to
mean
pick
you
my
just
favorite kid?
I know every time you hear them, they check off all the boxes. You can't wait to refer them to someone else. Not even not as this, not as booking someone, but just as a leader. Boy, every time
Oh,
you hear the speaker, I gotta share this talk with somebody else.
ah, friggin' whatever. I mean, golly. Um, well, I mean, again, um, as far as people that I follow, like organically, I have always followed Seth Godin. And
Mm.
I have told speakers, they're like, what's your one big piece of advice? I'm like, subscribe to his blog and do everything he says. I think that what he shares is just so in line with my view of marketing and branding. Love it. Um, I love Gary Vaynerchuk's approach to people centric marketing and give it away, give it away, give it away. Just content, value, content, all out there. Those two have been highly influential on me as far as speak, like those two guys are speakers, of course, but they're thought leaders. They're like figureheads, right? Um, as far as a speaker, nope, can't do it. Can't do it.
I love
No,
it.
I won't. I won't.
If you're a podcast listener, not everybody is, but if you regularly
I am.
consume podcasts, is there a development or a guilty pleasure one that you're like, oh, everyone's got to listen to this podcast?
Oh, well, just reason number 400 to cancel me. Um, I during COVID, we had some time on our hands in the events industry. And that's when I started listening to podcasts. And I started listening before he got canceled off Facebook. I started listening to Ben Shapiro to try and make sense of what was going on. And that led me to the Daily Wire. And it is and I am currently obsessed with Matt Walsh, and he is highly inflammatory. I get it. I get it, you guys. But that's part of his thing. He was a shock jock for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think his just no BS approach to stuff, like knowing that I like Gary
Yep.
Vaynerchuk and Matt Walsh, you know everything about me.
I love it.
I don't mince words.
I love it.
um,
I love
yeah,
it.
so those are my two guilty pleasures for
I love it.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
And then lastly, is there a book that you just say, boy, every leader, you've got to read this book?
Um, um, well, outside of the Bible, I mean, can we just get that out there? Every leader, you got to read this book. What did I? Oh, I'm so bad with titles of songs and books. Is it right here? Please tell me it's right here. It's not. Well, gosh dang it. Anyway, it's the brand story one. Do you know his name? Donald Miller.
Oh,
The
yeah.
brand
Story brand. Absolutely.
story brand. There. No
Yep.
wonder I couldn't get it right. Yeah, creating a story brand, or
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I've tried to read that book like cover to cover several times, and I don't get past the first few chapters without starting a new business. Like, and that's Bookable Speakers came from chapter 3 or something. I
Wow.
got to chapter 3 and I was like, oh, I know what I need to do. And like I went in and created the website. Like it was just like, this is what Bookable Speakers is going to be. And the events predate the book that I wrote. So yeah, the whole thing, it feels like a movement to me because I'm so passionate about the Bookable Speakers movement. And it is for established and legacy speakers. And that's what creating a story brand did for me, that Donald Miller book. So one of these days I am going to get through it, but I'm afraid to pick it up again because I'm way too busy to start a new business.
I love it. Well, he actually released Story Brand 2.0 today. So an updated version of it.
He
So
did.
yeah. Yeah, they're
What
really
does
leaning
that
into
mean?
AI, and so he's got a whole new segment on that. So
Just today?
just today, just dropped. Yeah, if you go to Amazon, it might be a pre-order thing or whatever, but I just saw it. I
That's
just saw
so
the email.
crazy. A, you know that, and B, I brought it up. That's so weird.
I'm a dork when it comes
Are
to
you?
all things resources and all that stuff. So where's the best place to send our listeners to find out more about you and what you do?
Well, I have 3 websites because of crazy Donald Miller. So actually 4. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I created a whole consulting brand too during COVID. You can go firstnamelastname.com. So christahaberstock.com. I'm also at bookablespeakers.com. I'm also at cagency.com. But the easiest one to spell is probably bookablespeakers.com.
I love it. We'll put all those in the show notes and in
Great.
our Facebook group, the speakers group. And Krista, this has been so enjoyable, so helpful, so practical, so real.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for just
Thank
sharing
you.
Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. Thank you for leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And thank you for every like and every comment. Every single time you cut and copy a link and send it to a coworker or a friend, it absolutely means the world, and it helps each other transform our communication skills. Lastly, don't forget about a great resource that's available to you, our communication skills library. At the end of every episode, we ask each guest their favorite speaker, their favorite podcast, their favorite book, and we've compiled all of those resources together to give you an amazing library to continue your growth and development. Thank you again for being a listener and for being a part of the Speak with People community.